Republicans say tonight they are unified, arguing the Democrats have divisions over their primary field and the chaos of the Iowa caucuses. And what about that moment that appeared to be one of frustration by one of their top party leaders earlier tonight? Or yesterday, whatever time zone you're in. Let's bring in tonight's power panel. Democratic strategist Kevin Walling, Fox News contributor, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, and attorney to President Trump and the campaign, Jenna Ellis. Welcome to all of you.
Great to see you, Shannon.
Okay, so people, if you may have missed it at the end of the president's speech, we probably have the video here of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi ripping it up. And there were a number of folks who caught up with her on the Hill tonight to ask her moments later about that, including one of our producers, Jason Donner. Here is her response as to the question of why she ripped up the speech.
Why did you rip the speech up, Madam Speaker?
Because it was the courteous thing to do, considering the alternative.
Governor, I'm not sure what the alternatives were, but she's standing by the decision. Governor, can you hear us?
Well, yeah. Oh, I didn't know you called on me.
Sorry,
Let me just tell you, I have in my hand, Shannon, this is Nancy Pelosi's invitation to the White House. And I just want you to know that it's all gone because it has been torn in half. I thought it was an unfortunate and really disgusting moment, and I don't know why she did it. It had no purpose other than to give the Republicans an amazing array of campaign commercials leading into November. And I think it's going to be something that she and the party will regret for a long, long time. I believe a year from now, Donald Trump will still be at that podium. Kevin McCarthy will be in the seat behind the president, along with Vice President Pence.
All right, that is a big prediction. It did seem to be a moment, a rare one for her, where she was not fully disciplined, because she's very good at staying on message and being disciplined. But it comes at the same time we're getting new numbers from Gallup that show this president is doing better than ever. And not only him, the party as well. Gallup saying this, under the Trump job approval at personal best, 49%. Now, 51% of Americans view the Republican Party favorably, up from 43% in September. That's 8%. It's the first time GOP favorability has exceeded 50% since 2005. Kevin, you know, we've talked about scandal fatigue, the Mueller investigation, impeachment now. Do you think that has backfired in some way on the Democrats? I mean, Speaker Pelosi didn't want him to do it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Shannon. You're right. I mean, Speaker Pelosi was very hesitant to bring about these impeachment articles before the House and transfer them over to the Senate. I think for that very reason, knowing that the Senate was likely to acquit, of course, we'll see that vote tomorrow, and to put some of her people in uncomfortable positions, especially in those districts that were flipped in 2018 from 2016. She's got to protect 40 of those members. I think to the governor's point, you know, everything Speaker Pelosi does is calculated. I think she's a brilliant strategist. You may disagree with her politics and her policies, but I think she wanted to speak to a greater moment at the end of that State of the Union by doing that. We'll see what the ramifications are in the coming days, if people are still talking about that, or if folks are already on to the next thing, including New Hampshire.
Well, yeah, and everything happened so quickly, as we know, in this news cycle. But Jenna, tonight in her response after the speech, she said that it was a manifesto of mistruths or misstatements. So, I mean, clearly she wasn't a fan, and that was quite a statement she made.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, we're all talking about it, right? Instead of talking about how great President Trump's State of the Union actually was. And I think this was actually the greatest speech that he's ever given in his presidency, and arguably the greatest State of the Union address in American history, because he specifically said that all presidents make promises, but he was there to show the American people the results. And he is all about promises made and promises kept. And so for Nancy Pelosi to say that there were no alternatives and that this was somehow the professional thing to do is absolutely ridiculous. For her to think that tearing up that speech and tearing up the moments in that speech of American families, a young girl getting a scholarship, a wife of a military husband who got to see him and being surprised, a great American hero that is Rush Limbaugh receiving the highest civilian award. I mean, these are people that no matter what your party is, these are great Americans, and she should have had a lot more respect for that. And President Trump tonight showed that he is the president for all Americans and that our economy is doing well, low unemployment. He has so many things to tout. He has the 2 trade deals, the 2 great Supreme Court justices. I mean, these are things and victories for all of Americans. And so the great American comeback is exactly what this was about. And I think Nancy Pelosi just wanted to steal his thunder. And so rather than talking about that, I think we should be talking about how great the American comeback is and that President Trump is going to keep America great heading into 2020.
I want to play something from James Carville Carville, a Democratic strategist who seems to be warning Democrats about what he sees coming from the party right now against this backdrop of what the president is talking about. Here's what he said today, or yesterday by now.
We're like talking about people voting from jail cells. All right, we're talking about not having a border. We got to decide what we want to be. Do we want to be an ideological cult, or do we want to have a majoritarian instinct to be a majority party?
I want to get quick reaction before we have to wrap up. But Kevin, to you first. Are you worried about that? And then Governor will have you finish this out.
Yeah, absolutely. I love James Carville, and I think he's a brilliant strategist. I mean, my huge moment of hesitation was in that first debate when every Democrat on that stage raised their hands to support health care for folks here without documentation. As you saw in the speech tonight by the president, he wants to make that a wedge issue. We've got to be a big tent, but we can't push moderate voters aside and into the president's camp.
All right, Governor, in light of the new Gallup poll numbers and that warning from James Carville, should Democrats be worried?
They ought to be very worried. Their whole presidential field has moved sharply to the left. The fact is, if you're sitting there tonight watching the speech and you watch Donald Trump deliver moments of such pride, whether it's the general, one of the Tuskegee Airmen, or whether it's the young girl, or whether it's the soldier reunited with his family, and you see this very emotional, where you're tearing up for it, and you get this picture that America is on the rebound, and then you see the Democrats walking out, tearing up the speech, acting like it was awful. If I'm sitting there and I'm just an undecided voter, tonight I made a decision, and it's not for the Democrats.
All right.
Well said.
Jenna, Governor, Kevin, good to have all of you up with us in these wee hours
Thanks,
of
Shannon.
the night,
Good to see you guys.
wherever you are.
Thank
What's
you.
your time zone? Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to bring you those top moments from the speech, plus new numbers and an update from the Iowa caucuses next.